Well, it's 600 resolutions, and of course, they came up with 10,335-page report. We're talking about the national conference. We'll be looking at the outcome and seeing how much of expectations Nigerians have of this particular conference and how it can mold our future. And you also recall, leading up to the convocation of that national conference, we had a presidential advisory committee that went around the country, every zone, every nook and cranny they went to see what the people truly want. And this morning, we're looking at the outcome of the national conference. Joining us is Femi Okurounmu. He was the chairman, Presidential Advisory Committee on National Conference. Good morning and thanks for joining us this morning. And of course,
good morning.
We also have Bakare. He's of the Truth Be Told network, as well as a public affairs analyst. He's also one who's been following the proceedings of the national conference till this moment. Good to have you join us this morning.
I'm glad to be here. Good morning.
Well, you look at the statistics, and we look at recommendations. We look at the voluminous page of that particular report. Some would say, well, it's no surprise that we had that from the conference. First, let's recap before we get into all of this. What was it like going through the country when you were given that task to lead the committee to go around and see what the people truly want?
Well, going around the country was very educating for me. It allowed me to have a broader understanding, a deeper understanding of the problems of Nigeria and what Nigerians across all sections of the country really want. See, it is easy to stay within your own section and say, this is what I want, or this is what we want. And you are saying that from the perspective of your own people. But when you go around the country, you then realize that, well, this country is composed of so many different ethnic groups. Some people will say about 500 ethnic nationalities or more. And the interests of all are very diverse. So you'll get a deeper understanding of Nigeria, what the people really want, and how we can put together a conference where everybody can express its own views, and we can arrive at a consensus that will make everybody happy. And I'm happy this is what this conference has done. We've arrived at decisions that reflect the varying points of views of different ethnic nationalities, which all of us were able to agree that, yes, we can live with this. So decisions by consensus without even having to vote.
And you arrived at 600 resolutions. How were you able to produce, this?
We had 20 committees. The conference had 20 different committees, and each committee came up with different recommendations from which resolutions of the conference as a whole, after extensive debates, arose. So it is the resolutions that arose from these various 20 committees that we say is over 600 resolutions. But then there are different types of resolutions. Some resolutions only simply involve policy changes, policy pronouncements by policymakers. They are not, they don't require too much. Some only require legislative action by the National Assembly, perhaps with the President producing executive bills and sending them to the National Assembly. So it's only a few of them, well, I won't say a few, but only a fraction of them that require constitutional amendments.
Okay.
So it is not as if we are recommending over 600 constitutional amendments.
Okay.
Only some of these 600 plus require constitutional amendments.
Well, Bala Bakare, for you, I know you have always given your own thoughts and views concerning the conference. We'll come back to Senator Okurounmu, because at that point in time, before they went around the country, a lot of people thought it was going to be, based on ethnic nationalities, until they realized that, we had more than enough on our plates and said, no, wait a minute, it won't be on that basis. Now, for you, seeing the proceedings till the very last day, what was the highlight of the proceedings at the national conference for you and your network.
Thank you very much, my brother Sulai. I want us to look at the whole scenario holistically. From October 1st, when the president muted the idea of a national debate that culminated into a national conference. And fair enough, thank God, Senator Okurounmu, who headed the PAC, Presidential Advisory Committee, is here to enlighten us more. From that angle, let's start painting the picture till the outcome. Senator went around Nigeria and did a good job. Honestly, it was based on the demand by the average Nigerian for a constitutional conference. The average Nigerian wanted it. That it was given to us by Jonathan, it's relative. That the timing by some people that it was wrong is relative. The idea was we made the first step towards having that constitutional conference. And then the PAC was able to achieve that. It was what the PAC did that gave us the 492-seater confab, which in effect came up with 600 resolutions, so to speak. But if we go ahead from there, honestly, Truth Be Told Network will always do what the average Nigerian will do. Talk about issues, but we normally go one step further. What is the solution to some of the nitty-gritty brass tacks issues, the core values of those issues?
But were you able to address those issues during the conference? And the resolutions that were eventually agreed to, did it address?
Yes, but the conference itself was aimed at addressing these issues. That was, in fact, if we had to adduce reasons for the conference, is to address the lingering issues of Nigeria.
Core issues of
Security.
Well, security, of course, is one of them, yes. And there are many other problems. And the conference addressed itself holistically to all the problems that we can conceive of.
Okay. So, because also some of the feedback we got, and that while following the stories, following the conference, we realized that it wasn't a smooth sail between the delegates in trying to get in trying to represent and in trying to voice what they want to to everyone else in the house.
Well,
how did you manage the differences between?
See, it was not expected that it would be a smooth sail. When you have so many divergent groups, each with its own perception of what it wants, and these are all very different. When you have them coming to a conference like that, you don't expect smooth sailing. There are people who have a vested interest in retaining things as they are. They are there, and they have a right to their own opinion. There are also people who have vested interest in changing things, meaning that we move in a different direction. They too have a right to their own opinion. So in between, you have different shades of opinions about what people want for Nigeria. So all these people we all have to come together to resolve these conflicts. And I think the beauty of the conference is that we were able to do what we call conflict management, to such a point that all of us were able to agree. Starting from a point where we were very divergent, we came to a point where we converge on certain resolutions which all of us can live with and which all of us agreed upon.
Well, anyway, I think both of you are not members of the conference, but again, it is good that we have people who have followed up through this particular proceedings or the conference. For Senator Okurounmu, who was also part of those who went around town. We'll also come back to you, but we're trying to look at the agitations of Nigerians you talked about, which is very, very key here.
Good.
And we also would sought to see if the conference actually addressed those issues that Nigerians were, clamoring for.
Thank you.
First,
Thank you.
It would seem as if the whole essence finally, surreptitiously or inadvertently, is giving us a brand new constitution.
If you identify specific issues.
So we can go into
certainly
it.
we'll do all of that. So we're starting to look at what the people wanted when you moved around.
Yes.
And that formed some of the agenda of the conference.
conference.
So let's talk about some of them, which will now narrow it down to those that they never were able to come to a consensus. But looking at it holistically now,
Yes.
one by one, what was that major thing that we all clamored for that you would say, oh, aha, I think they have actually nailed it for me?
Thank you. Thank God we're where it is. You see, from my perspective and the perspective of Truth Be Told Network, we did a thorough job of all proceedings of that confab. At the end of the day, they came up with 20 committees to look into virtually all that is encompassed in what the PAC submitted, in what Senator Okurounmu and his group submitted. And honestly, from our survey, the average Nigerian is not satisfied with the reports of those 20 committees. I will tell you one thing. There are core issues that bothers on the life of every Nigerian. And from us who have been able to call them the Ds that were not looked into, Nigerians were clamoring for a devolution of powers. Nigerians were clamoring for a rethink on the derivation. Nigerians were saying we shouldn't be divided, but at the same time we are dividing ourselves into states. So the 3 Ds are coming to play, and honestly, I pray we don't go into a confused state of disaster by not giving the devil a hand in whatever we are doing. Let me go into bits and pieces of what makes up these core values of Nigerians. Nigerians were very happy for selfish reasons when they muted the fact that they were looking at a situation of 18 new states. That is going to impoverish Nigeria because some people are going to make money out of it. The wage bill is going to increase. I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at little things. I'm looking at governance from the grassroots, governance from the LGs. It is from this same comfort that some people are coming up with relegating the LGs, relegating the government of my people, the government of us, relegating it to the back burner, throwing it to the state governments to do whatever they want with the LGs. This is the same comfort that never looked closely into what makes up an LG. I keep asking some of them, why don't you deliberate on this issue I'm going to talk about now? It is agreed that there are 9 million people in Kano State. Kano State has 44 LGAs, local governments. It is agreed that Lagos State has 9 million.